Hi, everybody. We're coming to you today from inside the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Cleveland, Ohio. We have with us today Mr. Jim Henke. He is the chief curator for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Wow, the stories that can be told in this building, pretty incredible. I've had the opportunity to tour in the past, but for those folks that are maybe looking for something to do this summer, there's something to do no matter summer, winter, fall, and
Right.
spring. Come to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah, we always have a lot of stuff going on here. We just opened a big new exhibit, our major exhibit, which takes up 2 whole floors of the museum, and it's called Women Who Rock. And it's basically looks at the role of women in rock and roll and the roots of rock and roll. It starts with the blues and country and western music and all that, and then goes up through the early years of rock and roll and through the girl groups, and then through the music of the late 60s and on right up to the present. We have so like I say, we have things from old blues women, date back to the 1920s and whatever, and then we have Lady Gaga's meat dress we just got. So,
Do you have to keep it refrigerated? I was wondering about this on the way here.
well, actually, what they did is they sent it to a taxidermist, and he treated it with this with formaldehyde and detergent and bleach and other stuff, and then put it on a body form and let it dry on that. So we think it's should be pretty safe. I think so.
If anything in rock and roll, we have seen just origination and people with their own styles, their own flares. You see a lot of that inside here. Behind the artistry, there's great stories.
Yeah, it's certainly there's a lot of individualism, a lot of different things going on here. And you mentioned Lady Gaga; she's someone that's obviously very original. But in our museum, we cover the roots of rock and roll, basically all the way up to the present. And we've also been redesigning the museum. So if those folks that have been up here, it's actually a changed museum from what it's looked like in the past. And we just opened, in addition, a brand new Beatles exhibit that's very comprehensive. I think it's probably, if not the most comprehensive Beatles exhibit anywhere, it's one of the most comprehensive. And we have a lot of great stuff from all 4 of the Beatles, and it's really everything from, and things going back to the very early days. Like there's a contract when they were called the Silver Beatles, Beetles as opposed to Beat, and then everything up to the a dissolution agreement that they signed in 1974 when the group sort of officially broke up and figured out what the financial terms were going to be and all that. But then we have John Lennon's Sergeant Pepper uniform. We have jackets that John and Paul both wore in Help. We have a beautiful suit that George Harrison wore on the Beatles' '66 U.S. tour. We have George's Rickenbacker guitar and John Lennon's Rickenbacker guitar. So it's really, that's a great exhibit. We also just updated our Rolling Stones exhibit. So there's a lot, there's a lot here about, pretty much any. And I think if you come here, you're going to find, somebody that you really appreciate and love. It could be, the Beatles or the Stones, or it could be, almost anybody. But we have so much stuff here. It's great.
We had the passing of Clarence Clemens recently, and anytime you see one of those who have made great strides in rock and roll passing on, you pay tribute to a lot of these people or bring some type of an exhibit together, don't you?
Yeah, it sort of varies. We actually had a big Bruce Springsteen exhibit before we opened our Women Who Rock exhibit, so and that's now traveling. But it's certainly the news about Clarence is very sad, and obviously it's someone who's going to be missed, and it's very, very unfortunate. So.
One of the things that I saw on the way in here, when you get behind the scenes, you go into the security area, there's a wonderful wall that people don't get a chance to see much of, but there are a lot of people who have signed that wall.
Yeah, it's funny. It's as you say, it's in the entrance to the security area. And the original idea of it would be that employees would sign it 1 year after they'd been here for 1 year, and we still do that. But then, as more and more famous people have come to visit, we get them to sign the wall. So we have everyone. When we had the Bruce Springsteen exhibit up, Bruce came out here to see his exhibit, and so he signed the wall. Taylor Swift signed it. Les Paul signed it before he passed away. Bill Clinton, the former president, signed it. So Steven Tyler and Joey Kramer from Aerosmith. So it's Dick Dale. So it's again all the different people who have visited here, and we do get a lot of when musicians come through Cleveland. We always try to invite them down here, and if they have time, generally they'll come and I give them tours, and it's a nice thing. So and that usually also wins them over, and they really end up loving the museum once they've seen it.
Do you personally get starstruck by some of the people you have seen come through the walls here?
I don't know if I'm starstruck per se, but because actually this is now my 18th year here, and prior to this I was a writer and editor at Rolling Stone magazine, so I've sort of dealt with these people most of my life. But it is pretty amazing, and like I say, that when Bruce Springsteen comes down, and And it's always great. Like, he looked at his exhibit, and then he went through the rest of the museum, and he was going on and on, and loving all this and talking about it. And so it's just it's always wonderful to hear the artists respond. It's also cool too. Like, I think about a year and a half ago, or maybe 2 years ago now, Ian Hunter came through, and he wrote the song Cleveland Rocks. And so during the tour, he said, I've got the piano that I wrote Cleveland Rocks on. Would you guys like that? And it's like, yeah, I think that belongs here. So now we have that on exhibit. So things like that happen as well.
There are pages that I've seen with different artists that have written the songs. You have the original documents and things that maybe was written on a paper bag or whatever the case may be. That's history.
Yeah, that's good. That's one of my favorite things is the handwritten lyric manuscripts. And we have several of John Lennon's in our Beatles exhibit. We have a lot of different ones here. And it's actually funny that when Springsteen was here, and he still writes all of his lyrics basically in school spiral notebooks and writes them all by hand and all that. And what he does is sort of different from other people. He writes the song out from beginning to end, and then, he'll go to another song. And then when he goes back to the song that he had originally written down to rewrite it, instead of scratching stuff out and all that, he starts over again from the top and writes it all out again like that. But anyway, when Bruce was here, he was looking at some of the handwritten lyrics, and he said, I wonder if like any of the younger bands do this anymore. Do they all just write on computers, and it's, all the changes and everything are lost, so you don't see the X outs and all that stuff. So that was funny, but it's a good point,
Well, certainly, as you mentioned, that spans generations there. This is a great place for instance, today, Dan Jr. is behind the camera here, but father and son can come both with different eras and have a similar appreciation.
Yeah, it's interesting because when we first opened, it was more or less, a lot of our visitors, it was basically the baby boomer crowd and all that. But over the years, we've seen it grow more where, there's families coming, like you say, and a lot of times when we'll, talk to the people who are here, they'll say, our kids wanted to come here and all that. And again, we've tried to keep the exhibits so that it's, a pretty broad mix. So like I say, in the Women Who Rock exhibit, it basically comes right up to the present. There's Lady Gaga, Rihanna, a lot of the, Carrie Underwood, a lot of the current artists are included in there. We have a section called Right Here, Right Now, where we focus on younger bands and bands who are sort of on the charts right now. So there's that section. And then, throughout the museum, there's a, broad mix, like I say, from, we have sections on the roots of rock and roll. There's one case in our Roots of Rock and Roll section where we have guitars from Muddy Waters, Leadbelly, John Lee Hooker, all these great, bluesmen and people of that era. And then, like I say, then we have, other things from, more current artists. So it's try to keep that mix going, and it's, it's fun. One of the other things we have going on this summer is we have a summer concert series called Summer in the City. And we do that out in front of the museum, generally on Wednesday nights. It actually kicks off this year on July 6th with band Fits and the Tantrums, who are a hot young band right now. They're sort of a neo-soul group from LA, and they had a song called Money Grabber that's been something of a big, pretty successful radio hit, and so they're going to be playing. And then on July 13th, we have a group, Das Racist, who are a rap group, and they're going to be here. On August 3rd, we have a group, The Joy Formidable, who are from Wales, but they're very hot. Like, I was at the South by Southwest Music Conference this year, and they were one of the bands, and everyone was talking about them. And then on August 17th, we have a group, Murder by Death, who are from Bloomington, Indiana. So it's free. It's like I say, it's out front of the museum, and so everyone can come and see these younger bands. And again, that's again sort of the mix that you heard presenting live performances. Also, we do a lot of, like, tied into the Women Who Rock exhibit. We'll be doing programming over the summer and bringing in different women artists to do interviews with them and other things. So there's always other things going on here.
Plenty to see, plenty to do this summer, and like we said, all year long. Check him out at rockhall.com. For Jim Henke, I'm Dan Ramey. Thanks for watching today, and thanks for listening on 1490.